Coming up, the migration situation in Europe is getting worse. Mask mandates are ending in New York City, and a star American athlete is currently detained in Russia. All this and more right now on PS News. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Michael DeMarco. Let's take a look at what's happening around the world. The backlash against Russia for its invasion of Ukraine is growing across several industries, and Russian vodka is one of those targets, even triggering one company to change its name. At least 8 states are now urging liquor stores to stop buying and selling Russian-branded booze. But in today's Consumer Watch, Jen Sullivan has why the move may miss the intended target.
A growing number of states are boycotting Russian-made booze in support of Ukraine.
I have no intentions of bringing them back.
Officials in at least 8 states, including Ohio, Utah, Oregon, North Carolina, Alabama, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and New Hampshire are calling on liquor stores to remove Russian-made or Russian-branded products from their shelves.
We sell anywhere around $20 million of Russian-based product at any given over the course of any given year, out of $1 billion or so of spirits that we do sell. So it does have some impact.
But experts say the move may miss the intended target because few alcohol brands are imported from Russia and sold in the U.S. In fact, many of the top-selling vodka brands with Russian origins are now distilled in other countries, including the U.S.
Boom. That's how we feel about it.
One example, Stoli vodka, which is only Russian by name. The vodka is actually made in Latvia, and the company is headquartered in Luxembourg. The invasion triggered a rebrand with the company, announcing it will be sold and marketed only as Stoli. Another example is Smirnoff. Although the brand traces its heritage to 19th century Russia, the company has long been owned by a British spirits company and is manufactured in Illinois.
I suppose if there were a Russian beer or a Russian wine, that's coming off the shelves too. 2
of the few vodka brands actually produced in Russia are Russian Standard and Green Mark. For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
In the midst of the Russian invasion, Ukrainian leadership is calling for a no-fly zone over their country. NATO is ruling this out, as such a measure could lead to even more escalation. In an interview with Julianne Smith, the U.S. permanent representative to NATO, Christiane Amanpour, gets the full story.
Yes, and we can obviously see it unfolding, and you know as well as I do and as well as the whole world does that the Ukrainian leadership, which are heroically defending their country, are expressing frustration. They definitely want a no-fly zone. You have all said that's not even, in the offing. And yet we heard over the weekend that there may be some deals to be made with NATO members' fighter jets, give them or send them into Ukraine and backfill those of perhaps Poland. But now we're hearing from the Poles that that is not it's not happening. Can you tell us if there's any air power going into the Ukrainians right now? Or will there be?
Okay. So there's 2 things here. So first, on the no-fly zone, our goal right now is to actually stop the war. We don't want to expand this conflict beyond Ukraine. And so right now, the signal from NATO collectively is that NATO is not prepared to move forward with a no-fly zone. On your specific question about providing MiGs, say Polish MiGs to Ukraine, that is not a NATO decision. That is a sovereign decision for Poland to take. The U.S. has noted that it is willing to sit down and talk through some of the challenges of that. There are a lot of open-ended questions about the number of Ukrainian pilots that are available, how these jets would actually move from Poland to Ukraine. That's all being worked right now. So I don't have a final answer for you on that, but the Ukrainians have asked some NATO allies to provide them with those Soviet-era jets. And so that is something that's currently being considered.
The refugee crisis in Europe is worsening by the hour. The United Nations reports that more than 1.7 million people have been forced to flee war-torn Ukraine. CNN's Scott McLean reports near the Poland-Ukraine border.
More than 1 million of that 1.5 number that you quoted have ended up in Poland, and the EU's top diplomat says there could be 5 million if the bombing and shelling continues. The cars that you see here, they are the people who have been able to get out of some of these badly shelled, badly bombed out cities or some of the safer places before that happens to them. We're about 5 miles away from the Polish border. We're on the Ukrainian side, obviously, where people are trying to flee, and things have definitely picked up in the last couple of days. The cars here are in for a very long wait. Some people have already been traveling for several days, and one car at the next checkpoint said that they've been waiting for 27 hours. Now, closer to the border, buses are dropping people off to cross on foot, and we have heard some incredible stories there. We met an elderly couple earlier today who told us that they sheltered in Kharkiv in a metro station for 8 days, and only when a bomb went off at a police station nearby, shaking the whole station, did they realize that this war is not ending anytime soon. Listen.
This horror cannot be endured. I cannot express it. The fear, the crying children. When I saw a pregnant woman entering the metro, I understood this cannot be forgiven. There is no excuse for this.
Many of the people who are fleeing places like Kyiv, places like Kharkiv, they end up in Lviv, either trying to catch a train out of town or driving like these folks here. The mayor of that city, which is still relatively safe, says that his city has reached its capacity to help. So it is calling, or he's calling on international aid organizations to do more.
Coming up, people are coming together in solidarity with Ukraine. This and more after the break. Stay.
Hello, my name is John Lynch. I'm the president of the school's animation club. While other colleges' animation clubs strive to only show just straight anime, our club tries to be something different, as we show a variety of things such as Western animation, Eastern animation, internet animation, films, and so much more. If you want to meet people who have like-minded taste in animation, then feel free to come on down to our club.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at what's happening near you. New York City is taking another step to bounce back from the pandemic. The city set to drop several safety protocols Monday, including a school mask mandate and vaccination requirements for businesses.
Are you excited about tomorrow?
Yes.
How come?
Because no masks.
Aviva and her dad are thrilled about masks being optional.
I think they should have done that a long time ago.
But that doesn't mean everyone's ready to ditch them tomorrow.
I think I'm going to wear them in school because in January, I actually got COVID and I didn't like it and it felt really bad. And I know like on Thursday, one of the people in my class got COVID.
Bennett's dad says he's told his kids to do whatever makes them feel comfortable.
It's nice that they actually have that choice, and I mean our kids have been wearing them some of them for 25% of their lives.
We've worn masks for a long time, and it's a nice thing to do to like have a break from masks at school.
But this mask break may not last forever. On Friday, the mayor said the city will be ready to pivot if there's a surge. A color-coded COVID alert system is now in place.
We also know that if somebody's going to wear a mask at school, we have to know we don't tell them what they should do or shouldn't do. We should just tell them, we should just know that they did that for a reason.
Right now, we're at the lowest level with an average infection rate below 2%, which the mayor says makes many of the precautions we've been taking not necessary right now. Restaurants won't have to ask for vaccine proof, something some restaurant owners say has been challenging with customers.
At each level, there's clear guidance for what precautions New Yorkers should take.
Some of them, they don't want to listen. No, they don't want to wear a mask, no IDs, it wasn't easy.
The mayor says not everyone is going to feel comfortable right away.
8.8 million people, 30 million opinions.
In New York City, the war in Ukraine has shaken a tight-knit Russian and Eastern European neighborhood known as Little Odessa. CNN's Gary Tuckman spoke with residents there who strongly oppose the conflict.
Here on the boardwalk next to the ocean,
Putin is a killer! Putin is a killer!
Anger about the war in Ukraine and about the man who started it, Russian President Vladimir Putin. Anastasia Stepanova was born and raised in Russia, south of Moscow. She came to the United States 8 years ago.
I think that he's drunk with power, and I'm not sure what goals he tries to pursue, but I just hope that he will wake up one day and look in the mirror and ask himself, is he happy with what he's done? And one day the answer will be no, and he will step away and he will keep his hands off the people out there.
The boardwalk is in Brooklyn's Brighton Beach neighborhood, where the elevated train noisily rumbles over businesses that have signs in Russian. So many people from the countries of the former Soviet Union live here that the neighborhood is also known as the Little Odessa. Lilia Rakhmangulova moved here about 5 years ago from the city of Smolensk, Russia. Lilia, you are from Russia. What do you think of Putin?
Putin убийца, killer. Putin is killer.
Putin is a killer, she says. This should not have happened. We live together with Ukrainian brothers and sisters. This has to be stopped. Inside the Brighton Bazaar grocery store, full of Russian specialty foods and delicacies, we meet Michael, who moved here about 20 years ago from Moscow.
Government of Ukraine and government of Russia should negotiate it. The war shouldn't be. I agree with this.
But do you think Russia has any business invading Ukraine?
Probably not.
Up the road a bit is the Brooklyn Banya, a traditional Russian bathhouse with the TV tuned to Russian news and clientele from the countries of the former Soviet Union. Alona Kruglak is a Ukrainian, has owned the business for 2 decades, and says everyone has always gotten along here.
And now all of a sudden we're being divided, saying, you're Ukrainian, I hate you, you're Russian, I hate you. It's just not so. Nobody hates anybody. Nobody wants this war.
Here at the Brooklyn Banya, we meet one woman who says both her parents were sent to a Soviet gulag in Siberia after World War II for political activities. Tiu Altasar immigrated to the U.S. from Estonia.
I think it's unbelievable, especially because this war is now like a 20th century war on 21st century. And I feel hopeless because knowing what Putin could do, it could be a forever war.
Back at the beach, Anastasia says for her, this is unbearable.
I lost my sleep. I lost my appetite. I cry every day. I read the news. And I just... Can I say one thing in Russian?
Yes.
Держитесь, пожалуйста. Мы все вместе, и здесь мы все вместе за вас. И все будет хорошо, потому что по-другому быть не может.
What does that mean?
I said that please hold on, and we're together here for you and there for you, and everything will be good because there's no other way.
Gary Tuchman, CNN, New York.
A third round of talks between Ukraine and Russia is scheduled for Monday, according to negotiators. This comes as the UN says more than 1.5 million Ukrainians have fled the country in fear for their lives. First responders to the World Trade Center terror attacks on 9/11 are at a higher risk for blood cancer. That's according to a new study published in the journal Nature Medicine on Monday. For 2 years, researchers collected blood samples from nearly 500 firefighters and emergency medical service workers. After controlling for age, sex, and race, the data showed that firefighters who were exposed to toxins, dust, and debris at the World Trade Center site were at least 3 times more likely to have cancer-causing gene mutations in their blood than firefighters who did not report to the site. Researchers also found that the prevalence of gene mutations increased with the age of the exposed individual. The types of mutations identified in this study have also been associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Coming up, a star American athlete is currently detained in Russia. Stay with us.
Hey, how are you? I'm that sports guy, Jason Lynch. Let's take a look at some sports news. 7-time WNBA All-Star center, 2-time Olympic gold medalist for Team USA, and now Russian prisoner. Brittany Griner has been detained in Moscow on drug charges and faces up to 10 years in prison. As CNN's Rosa Flores reports, diplomats are working to get her home, but it won't be easy.
As the diplomatic ties between the U.S. and Russia crumble, a WNBA star is caught in the middle. Phoenix Mercury center Brittany Griner was arrested on drug charges after Russian customs officials said they found vape cartridges that contained cannabis oil in her luggage at an airport near Moscow in February. Griner remains in custody.
I've talked to a couple of sources, and they said it's been a couple of weeks that this has been going on. One source said since the NBA All-Star game.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken gave few specifics on Griner's case.
Whenever an American is detained anywhere in the world, we of course stand ready to provide every possible assistance, and that includes in Russia.
The episode comes as the United States has implemented economic sanctions on Russia as its assault on Ukraine intensifies.
What does the timing of the detention tell you?
I think it tells you everything. The trajectory of the case now will probably be different. And so they will definitely look for a sort of a certain bargaining chip effect, propaganda effect.
Given the timing of this, does the U.S. have limited leverage given what's going on in Ukraine?
Oh, for sure. So President Putin has declared that the West is at war with him by levying these economic sanctions. He has likened them to war. And so this being an American citizen who can potentially be accused of carrying a substance she was not supposed to be carrying, of course, whether that actually corresponds to the facts, we don't even know, and I wouldn't put anything beyond the authorities there. This is probably a propaganda trick.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who represents Griner's home city of Houston, calling for her release.
I don't want to disregard a sovereign nation, but Putin has disregarded sovereign nations his entire service in this world. And anyone that is killing and attacking and destroying Ukraine, their neighboring country that does not bother them, has no right to hold Ms. Griner, period.
And Griner's wife, breaking her silence in an Instagram post thanking everyone for their support and writing, quote, "Please honor our privacy as we continue to work on getting my wife home safely." Back home in Houston, Griner's high school coach grew emotional, worried Griner could face severe consequences.
What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is that this will become that she'll be a political pawn.
If she, by any chance, watches this story, what would you tell her?
I would tell her, please know that you are loved by so many people. You've always had a true resolve and grit to get to the finish line, and know that you will get to the finish line of this trial you're going through, of this ordeal.
There will be no spring training for Major League Baseball, at least for the next 2 weeks. The league made the announcement Friday after it failed to reach an agreement with the players' union. This isn't the first cancellation as the organizations try to hammer out a deal. Last week, all spring training games through Monday were canceled, as well as the first 2 series of the regular season. Opening day was supposed to be March 31st. With the new announcement, the earliest spring training games could start would be March 18th. The stoppage marks the first time professional baseball has been canceled due to a labor dispute since the 1994-1995 season. Players are not getting paid for games that don't happen. That's all I got for the sports news. Back to the desk with Michael.
Thank you, Jason. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us. To stay up to date with PS News and PSTV programming, be sure to follow at Plattsburgh State TV on all social media platforms. For myself and everybody here at PS News, thank you for joining us, and have a great night, Plattsburgh.